The Texas Attorney General leading a 16-state joint coalition that backs President Trump's travel ban and urging the Supreme Court to reinstate it, citing that blocking the ban prevents the federal government from enforcing effective national security and immigration policies. The leader of this coalition, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, joins me now. Attorney General Paxton, thanks for joining us. I read where you're saying that the travel pause is lawful and it protects the homeland. And now, of course, President Trump even saying they should have stuck with the first version of this. How did you get these states together, and what's the main issue that you want to get to the public here?
So, you know, we started all the way back in the Ninth Circuit when this all began. We had just Texas, and then we also had a Fourth Circuit case. We had 13 states join us there, and then back in the Ninth Circuit, 15 states. So our argument is very simple. There is a statute that simply governs exactly what the president has done. The statute's been used, I believe, about 44 times. It's never been controversial, and it's on its face strictly gives the president the authority to limit entry of non-resident aliens if he views it as detrimental to the country.
How do these courts suggest that if any other president had put forth this travel moratorium, it would have been lawful and legal, but because of comments made on the campaign trail, that it has an entirely different meaning? How did they come up with that?
You know, it's unprecedented as far as I know. I mean, if you look at the face of the statute that they're relying on, the president's relying on, if you look at the face of the actual travel ban, then this is clearly lawful. Instead, the court went outside of that bounds and they look at statements made during a campaign. To me, that has nothing to do with what is happening in this travel ban.
Now, of course, the travel ban in of itself, the term travel ban, initially the Trump administration wanted to stay away from that. You know, I think it was the Ninth Circuit that pointed to that as sort of being a catchphrase, and now President Trump, of course, embracing it, saying it is what it is. In your opinion, does this help or harm the case when it goes before the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. What matters here is the law, and the fact that's part why we're a part of this case. We feel very strongly. We've been involved in this litigation trying to protect our citizens from potential terrorist threats, other refugees coming into our state for literally years. And so really what matters here is the law and nothing else, not comments made by anybody in the administration, but ultimately what does the law say and how should it be applied? And given the fact that even the historical context of this is very favorable to the administration, we view this as a case that should be won.
There are a lot of states, now that you have this many states, particularly border states, how much of an impact will this have with respect to the Supreme Court? Does it weigh on it a little bit here? Does it help? I
think it absolutely does, because, you know, a lot of times they've given the impression in the media that the president is out by himself on this issue. What we wanted to emphasize here is, no, this is not an issue just related to one president, that there are lots of states in this country that are very concerned about the safety of their citizens. We've tried to address this with the past administration. We got nowhere, and we're grateful that we have a president now that's willing to do something about this.
Ken Paxton, thank you very much. You're always doing the work perhaps that others should be doing in higher offices, but we appreciate you coming on as well.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty. Now, I want to bring in Emily Jashinksy to discuss this as well. You know, of course, 16 states is impressive, particularly border states, but you also have other states that have pushed back dramatically. You've got Silicon Valley. You've got a lot of major political and business opponents on this against the president as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think, you know, I'm completely on Ken Paxton's side in this argument, because if you read the brief, I think it fills a hole that we had in the political conversation, which is that, you know, it's not necessarily effective enough for conservatives to just say, listen, this isn't a Muslim ban. The brief actually gets into some detail, and it says, listen, this impacts about 10% of the world's Muslim population. It's obviously not a Muslim ban. The burden to prove that there's discriminatory intent is strong, and referring simply to a campaign statement does not meet that burden. It lays out a really substantive case for that. It makes it clearly, and I think it's actually a benefit to the overall conversation about this ban.
Emily, the Supreme Court not really scheduled to hear this for some time. There's a slim chance they may hear it, but possibly it could be up to 6 months. Do you think that could change, particularly in light of the series of terror attacks that we've seen in Europe?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if that does change. I mean, I think it's something that you can make the cases of immediate importance to the population, so I wouldn't be surprised if that changed, especially given the way we're seeing the world struggle with these things so recently in the past 2 weeks, what's happened alone. So no, that would not surprise me at all, Charles.
You know, I am surprised that of the top 5 nations thus far this year, refugees, we've got in the top 5 Somalia and Syria on that list. And I wonder if that helps or hurts President Trump, particularly when you add in that very successful foreign trip that began in Saudi Arabia, where he actually spoke to Muslim leaders from 50 countries, and he was well received.
Yeah, no, I think that completely helps the president. And again, when you look at the actual ban, when you read the text of the ban itself, the opponents are relying on an interpretation of it, not the literal sense of it. So I think it completely helps President Trump going forward. We'll have to see how it plays out, but you know, I actually think he's in good standing on this. And what the attorneys general did here was help him make that case with more substance than others had been doing.